We're going deep today into the life of Mike Tyson.
Okay.
And, I think pretty much everyone knows Mike Tyson at least a little bit. The knockouts, the controversies, everything like that.
Oh, yeah, the persona.
But we're really going to try to go deeper than all that today and get to a side of Mike Tyson that you might not know so much about.
But I think to really get that, we have to go back to the beginning.
Back to the beginning, yeah, Brownsville, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
The source here paints a very vivid picture of his childhood.
Right.
And it's bleak.
Yeah.
I mean, just poverty, crime, violence, constant exposure to all of that.
I mean, it's just amazing that he emerged from that.
And 38 arrests by the time he's 13 years old.
Oh, my gosh, I know.
Yeah.
That's a detail that I think is really important, though, that 38 arrests by 13, because it says something about that environment.
Yeah, it wasn't just some kid, acting up.
Exactly. It was survival.
Yeah.
This is how you had to be to make it in this world he was in.
It makes you wonder how anyone, emerges from a background like that with any hope, let alone, the drive to become world champion.
Yeah, and I think that's where things take a turn, right? That's when he gets sent to reform school, and he meets Bobby Stewart.
Okay.
And then Bobby Stewart introduces him to Cus D'Amato.
The legendary Cus D'Amato.
The man who saw something that no one else did. And people say potential, but what does that even mean?
Yeah.
What was it in this troubled kid that sparked this belief in Cus?
Right. Was it just raw talent?
Was it that hunger for discipline, or was it something deeper? Was there some kind of yearning for a father figure, maybe? I mean, Cus kind of embodied that.
Right. That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I was reading about Tyson's first sparring session that he ever had with Cus. And, Cus is watching this kid spar, turns to the other people there and says, "This boy has the potential to be the heavyweight champion of the world."
Wow. And that conviction, it wasn't just Hastu. Cus was a brilliant strategist.
Yeah.
He taught Tyson the peekaboo style.
Right.
That really was perfect for his strength, but it was also far beyond the physical.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cus understood that boxing wasn't just a sport to Mike. It was an outlet.
Right.
To channel all that rage.
Well, yeah, there's that famous quote by Tyson where he says, "Fear is like fire. If you learn to control it, you can cook with it. If you don't learn to control it, it will burn you and everything around you."
And that right there, that is pure Cus D'Amato, because he saw that fire in Mike.
Yeah.
That potential for destruction, but also for greatness. And he didn't try to put it out.
Right.
He taught him how to harness it, how to turn that into something powerful.
Yeah. But was that always a good thing?
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, looking back now, could that intense focus, that, reliance on control, could that have contributed to some of his later struggles?
Oh, yeah.
Was there vulnerability there?
Yeah.
That came about because of the singular dependence he had on Cus.
That's a really interesting point, because we often hear about how great mentors are and the positive impact they can have. But what about the other side of that?
Right.
What about the potential downside? And, maybe immersing himself so much in Cus's world left him not really knowing how to handle all the pressures that came with fame and fortune later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, too, because their relationship went so far beyond the boxing ring.
Oh, absolutely.
It was almost like a father-son dynamic.
Yeah.
Which Tyson has talked about a lot, actually.
Yeah, he's quoted a lot about it.
Yeah, and he would always quote Cus as saying, "I believe in you, kid. You're going to be the greatest fighter that ever lived."
And for a kid who grew up with all that chaos and violence,
Yeah.
hearing that must have been powerful.
Yeah, like a lifeline almost.
It really is something that makes you think about how belief and support can really have a huge impact on people.
Absolutely.
Especially someone who's been told they're worthless their whole life.
Right.
That they're not going to amount to anything.
But this is just the beginning.
This is just the start of the story. So much more to uncover.
Yeah.
About Mike Tyson.
I'm excited.
Me too.
So we talked about, Tyson's rough childhood.
Yeah.
And the huge influence of Cus D'Amato. But as you said, the story, it doesn't stop there.
Oh, no. Not even close.
I mean, there's this meteoric rise. Youngest heavyweight champion ever.
At 20.
At 20 years old.
Crazy.
The baddest man on the planet.
Yeah, like that whole persona.
Yeah, but then there's the fall,
Yeah.
the controversies, the moments that, kind of tarnished his image.
And it's so easy to just get stuck on those moments, Define him by those headlines.
Yeah.
The rape conviction, the ear bite with Holyfield. I mean, those things cast a long shadow.
They really do. And, they're part of his story. Sure.
like a struggle with inner demons that maybe the public never fully grasped.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes you wonder, was the baddest man actually wrestling with some vulnerabilities underneath all that?
That's the question, isn't it?
Right.
Because if we only focus on those sensational moments, we miss all the nuance,
Right.
the complexity of the man underneath.
Yeah. And there's this anecdote about the guy that Tyson robbed as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
That really struck me.
Oh, yeah, right before the Jake Paul fight.
Yeah, in 2024, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, when I first read that, I was like, wow.
Right.
That's powerful. But the more I thought about it, the more questions I had.
Me too. It's like this moment that could so easily just be like a feel-good redemption story. But was it really forgiveness?
Right.
Or was there an element of fear there, given Tyson's reputation?
Right.
I mean, how does that affect the whole idea of redemption? That's such a good point, because on the one hand, you have Tyson expressing remorse, acknowledging the harm he caused. So there's a step towards accountability. But then on the other hand, there's that potential power imbalance.
Totally.
The pressure on the victim to appear forgiving.
Especially in the public eye.
Exactly. So it just adds this layer of complexity to it all.
Yeah, it really does. And it makes you think about what forgiveness really means.
Yeah.
And if you can ever be truly genuine when there's that kind of power dynamic at play.
That's a great point. And, speaking of confronting challenges,
Yeah.
Tyson almost died.
Oh, yeah.
Just a few months before that Jake Paul fight.
I know. I remember reading that.
He lost so much blood, his weight just plummeted.
I mean, it sounds like he was really close to death.
He was, and yet he still went ahead with the fight.
It's incredible.
It is, and it just shows you that resilience.
Right, that inner spark they talk about.
Right.
But what was driving that?
Yeah.
Was it still D'Amato's voice in his head?
Right.
Pushing him to overcome everything?
Or something deeper.
Yeah, like a need to prove something? Maybe conquer his own mortality.
Yeah. It's like his whole life has been about fighting, first for survival, then for glory.
Yeah.
And now maybe it's for something even bigger.
Right.
Peace.
Yeah.
Coming to terms with his past, with his own fragility.
Yeah, and I think this is where we start to see a different side of Tyson. Not the baddest man on the planet, but a man struggling with what he's done,
Yeah.
looking for some kind of resolution.
There's a quote from him that really hit me. I don't wish my life on no one.
Oh, yeah.
And that's heavy.
It is.
It's not an excuse for his actions.
Right.
But it does acknowledge the pain, the turmoil that he's carried with him.
I think it shows that behind all that bravado, the public persona, there's a lot of regret there. That he sees the damage he's caused to others and himself.
It makes you wonder if that's part of what drives him now.
It could be.
Maybe it's not about winning or losing anymore, but about finding a way to reconcile with the past, to have a legacy that goes beyond boxing.
Yeah, and I think that's really what makes Tyson's story so compelling. It's not just about, triumph or redemption.
Right.
It's messy.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
It's human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so relatable.
Well, it's crazy, right? We've spent all this time talking about Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
This guy who's a legend, a cultural icon.
Right.
But it makes you think about all the other people out there who maybe had that same potential.
Yeah.
But they never had that, that guiding force in their life.
That's what I keep coming back to,
Yeah.
What if Cus hadn't seen that spark?
Right.
What if no one had stepped up to be that mentor for Mike?
To be that anchor.
In all that chaos.
Yeah, it's a scary thought. That someone's whole life could go in a completely different direction.
Yeah.
Because of one person.
One person, yeah.
And that's kind of a reminder, isn't it? We all have a role to play in the lives of people around us.
Yeah.
We might not be boxing trainers, but we can all be mentors in our own way.
Absolutely. A kind word.
Just listening.
Believing in someone. Yeah.
Just showing that you believe in them can make all the difference.
It can change everything.
It really can.
And I think that's what makes this whole thing so much more than just a sports story. It's about human nature, the good and the bad in all of us.
Yeah, and that potential for both.
Right. And second chances.
Redemption.
Human connection. It's all there. It reminds us that even the baddest man on the planet, he's still human.
At the end of the day.
Flawed, vulnerable, capable of great things and terrible things.
Absolutely. And it makes you think. Right?
It does.
Is there a little bit of Mike Tyson in all of us? We all have our own battles to fight.
Our own demons.
And I think Tyson's story gives us hope. Even with all the ups and downs, it shows us that you can always get back up.
You can find a way forward.
becomes something more.
It's inspiring in a way.
It is. So if you're interested in learning more about Mike Tyson,
Yeah.
I encourage you to look past the headlines.
Go deeper.
See the man behind the myth?
You might be surprised.
Yeah, you really might. Until next time,